It's always good for us to get started, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna actually pin you. So I'm just looking at you and not at me. There we go. I don't know if we've done it like that before.
I always like it side by side because then I can admire myself.
Yeah. I just find, oh boy,
Anyway, I like it side by side
how
because
not
then I
to
get
be
a
as a coach. Well, I find that I'm constantly like I can see my eyes moving over. I noticed that like when I was taking my classes. I'm like, God, this is annoying.
so,
So
well, what I do for these kinds of things is I will shrink the image down. So unless I got something I need to see big, I'll shrink it down and I'll put the conversation right underneath the camera so that I'm more or less looking at the camera, you know.
yeah, that's what one thing I was looking at. I had it like this, and I don't know, like I want it. Maybe I need to move that. I don't know how to do that. Playing around with a new camera here, so maybe like that. So I don't like. I notice like some people they look like they're looking down because they've got their phone or whatever it is propped up some way, and they're looking like
Right,
down at it. And
right,
then other people are like looking up at their camera.
right. Or they have a screen over here, the camera's here, and so they see you over there, and that's what they're talking to. I do that all the time. So like I'm now looking at you on one of my screens over here, or I'll switch to the other side, looking at you over here. So we put it
Yeah.
right under the camera. It looks much better for some conversation. So
Well, hopefully people are not concerned about what we look like
hopefully they're
and
more concerned about what we talk about and not who we look
yeah.
like. Because if they're basically on what I look like, oh my gosh. So somebody's in trouble. So
Well, yeah. So Brian and I have been messing around with some new equipment that I got. A camera that was a freebie, and Brian sent me a new green screen that covers up everything and isn't actually like on top of me.
like last time.
So yeah, I mean now I've got like 6 inches of space.
There you go. That's all you need.
It's better.
That's
It's
what I got. I
it's
got
little
6 inches.
improvements. And the camera is extremely high definition. I'm still trying to get used to that. But yeah. But we were going to talk about do a little bit of coaching stuff today
It's good with me.
about something that I brought up, and I was kind of looking to see if I had a I'm as usual, I'm very ill prepared for this, and I don't have something to write on.
Well, that tells me that you're just letting the universe provide you with
Oh,
whatever you need.
that was it right there. That's what I was messing around with.
Mhm.
But then I had
So,
forgotten that pyramid thing.
so just for everybody to know, you were looking at possibly modifying the logo from the Phoenix to something more symbolic.
Oh, I like the Phoenix, but it's, I'm still in that. I guess I'm still in that stage of I let me try to like put this all into an explanation of and kind of explain where I'm at. So, I mean, kind of what we talked about a couple episodes ago, I got sick and then I burnt out kind of, and I was really pushing hard. And so had to take a step back, and what I realized was that I can't, if I'm going to do this coaching thing or turn it into a business or a side hustle or whatever it is,
Mhm.
I need to do it from a completely different perspective and angle that I was doing it at. And I had the right idea when I started the coaching classes, and it was to just basically, instead of doing everything the way I used to do it, which is like trying to make everything just right and get the perfect name and the perfect logo and the perfect this and that, to just do the part of it that I really love doing. And I don't think that anything I did in the past that was entrepreneurial was necessarily something I loved doing. And I know that I actually, you know, luckily, like through going through coaching, I found that I love the process of coaching people, and I also love the process of being coached. And it's interesting, like when we're talking about that symbol that I showed you before, the how the V stands for vulnerability, that's the part that I seem to have. I think that's probably the perfect letter for that for me, because it's where I find I still struggle, is being vulnerable about where I'm at. And that was the whole point of this show originally, was to be vulnerable and to show that I'm in it. I'm not in a place where I've got it figured out. And I have a lot of fears that are coming up for me talking about this, not now, but leading up to this, because there's this constant, like, what they called in the coaching class, but the gremlin or whatever that's in the head, that's constantly like, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. You're like, you're not doing it the way you're supposed to be. Only this many percentage of coaches actually ever make it, and all those fearful things. But that starts pushing me into this area that I don't enjoy the process anymore. And that's what was happening, is I wasn't enjoying the process about around the time that I experienced the burnout.
So the
So
the things that I think may be worth noting is that so many problems occur once we make the business about the business.
exactly. Yeah.
Because it's not, and I, I found this in my own journey is that is the, I mean, and it's not completely fair to say that the relationship was affected strictly by the fact that I was now, as you know, I won't, without naming names, I had a woman journeying with me after my marriage who I fully expected to be a partner in every way, business, life and so on. And one of the triggers for change in that relationship is when I said, we spent a lot of the money that I had available to me to build our business. We only have this much left. We need to start making money. And as soon as I started putting pressure on her about the money, it got even worse. Like, not just our relationship got challenged, but the money problem got worse too. And so, and I do teach workshops called Your Relationship with Money and other things based on these kinds of pieces of personal journey work, plus all the other things that I've discovered or revealed to myself along the way. But the thing that was always most astounding about this thing here is this, until astounding because it's a good thing, is until we are able to relax about our relationship with money and start focusing on all the other areas that are important and let money be a side effect, we've already put ourselves in a place of misalignment. So I
Yeah.
think the fact that you were feeling that gives me a lot of excitement for your journey, because it's like you're able to read in yourself what so many people don't get. I wasn't happy trying to be like, you had too many people whispering in your ear, you know, you need to be making six figures.
Right. The six-figure coach guys.
Right. Right. You need to be making six figures in 6 months. And if you do it my way, that's exactly what's going to happen. And you'll change people's lives.
Right.
In all
Sorry, I'm
reality, you're
taking
probably not,
notes.
you're not changing people's lives. You know,
Well,
you're changing their
yeah,
lives
and it
because you're
becomes
giving them money to teach you this nonsense. But it's not the most high integrity way. Look, money is important. There's no point in my conversation I'm going to tell somebody, you don't need money. That's not the point. I've always said money is the side effect of bringing value to others.
right. Well, yeah, and it's easy to get caught up in what those people are pushing because they have a message, and the message is a message of you're not doing enough, scarcity, and it turns, I feel like it turns, it could, if not handled properly, their methods could teach a very predatory type um thing. And so, I mean, to kind of piggyback off of what you're talking about, and I guess I'm talking about, is that I was speaking with my friend Mark the other day, and kind of talking about like how I felt like I'm trying all these new kind of ideas that I got from that burnout phase, and I what that came up is that whole idea that if you don't, it's like when I write my children's stories, if I wrote those in from the perspective of they have to make me money, it would ruin them for me. And so that's what I didn't want to happen with coaching. So I and that, talking with Brian, I mean, sorry, Mark, we were talking about that whole idea that, like, as soon as I think what stemmed it is that he was telling me about how all these things were kind of falling into place, and it all happened because he was doing what he loved, because he's a fitness instructor and you know world champion weightlifter type guy, and he was saying that, like, it's amazing how these things just kind of fell into place, and it kind of triggered it for me, and I was kind of referring to, like, that's exactly what I'm kind of going through right now, is where I don't want to I want to do the coaching in a way that allows me to do what I love and to embrace what I love about it, and stop worrying about the money, because I was kind of explaining to him like how I'm still looking for other work elsewhere, and I realized that I was putting all my eggs in one basket, and it just completely was destroying the whole thing for me. So yeah, I think if I continue to go down that path of I need this coaching thing to work out for me, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I have to push, 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 then I'm just going to end up hating it.
Right.
And yeah, I don't want to go
If you
down that
need
path.
it, I guess let me rephrase the word need for you though. If you need it to assuage your fears, it's going to burn you out. If you need it because it's something like the air you breathe, that's passion, that's clarity, that's purpose, that's fine.
Right.
And that's what you really need to be connected to. Um, so yeah, because if I need this is going back to that conversation I shared with you before, is as soon as our coaching, our mutual coaching, the two of us that were supposed to be journeying together, was about, hey, we got to start charging and getting some money back into the coffers, because we'll run out of money by, and I think it was like 6 month or 8 month window I had. And, I know it scared her. It scared her a lot. All of a sudden she was responsible, and she had never been really responsible for income. She had worked along the way, don't get me wrong, but kind of, I won't say aimless jobs, but jobs that eh, weren't career type structures or whatever the case may be. Um, and then she had a couple of relationship marriages along the way where she was the at home step parent and things like that. And that's the relationship that she bought into. She was okay with that. And she probably, I think for now, it looks like she's gone back to that. But it's just like, as soon as it became where we had to make money, we needed to make money, we're going to run out. And I should never have said that. Not that the relationship didn't already suddenly start to see challenge. It probably is the best thing I could have said because it showed cracks in the relationship that needed to be divulged. But but if I was going to try to keep her from getting fearful, I should never have said that. So fear and our relationship money is often really impacted by measurements of fear and how dependent we are on money to survive. And one of the things that these six-figure income guys would tell you is, let's get you to thriving mode. But I've talked to so many people who've been through those programs that that it seems it's all about the things you need to do to make that happen, and they don't seem to do anything about undoing the things that are in the way, or do very little about that. So now I do have people in my universe who teach about relationships with money, that are much richer than that. They talk about the concept of building out a sense of deservingness. One of them is a person who speaks extensively about deservingness, and it's a home run process for her because not everybody, most people who work with her end up developing a healthy relationship with money because it's not about the money, it's about their deservingness. And inside of deservingness is the whole package. It's not strictly money. Deservingness of clients, deservingness of the richness of the journey, deservingness of the discovery, deservingness of love, deservingness of all these other things. And money just happens to be another aspect of deservingness. So when it's taught in that frame, it's very, very healthy. It's very effective. And then if you challenges
mindset
of deservingness is getting through that whatever it is, whatever is causing deservingness issue, then getting through that. That's what your coaching is all about. So as you work with me or others to get you, if it's about your deservingness, when you work with me or other coaches, you'll have a chance to explore what your deservingness things are, which you'll start to realize is about your relationship with money thing falls into that pile.
Well, and yeah, mindset is important. And I need to start putting these things to paper that I've been kind of bringing awareness to. And I feel like I had a sense the other night or day or whatever, excuse me, that one moment, that I'm close, that something, because there's something that's brewing underneath all of this. And ever since I've kind of got back up after sort of my whatever burnout, sickness, COVID thing, I've been trying to be really easy with myself, not pushing myself, getting plenty of rest, and just letting whatever is kind of whatever. You remember that time you couldn't say the word percolating or
I don't know, it's perturbating or percolating.
perturbating or whatever.
The perturbating and
Something's
percolating are
happening
very similar.
Yeah, something happening under the surface, and I had this sense of like it was kind of like this feeling of like just, it was like a very temporary thing. It was kind of like this idea of like how incredible, how amazing it would feel to just be um sharing this message that I have with, because I feel so passionate about it. And the thing is like, so I kind of got like a whiff of that, like, oh wow, like I could see like it's like a total perspective shift. Because there's this thing that is just like, it makes all the sense in the world to you and it, or to me, and it is something that I just excites me to get up and to make a post about, or to whatever. Like it changes everything that I am doing or need to do, to a to like where it's just actually exciting. It's not like the boring stuff or the work or the whatever. There's just, because this kind of, and I feel like whatever that thing is, I'm starting to figure it out. And I'm starting to see things differently. And it doesn't, maybe it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be through coaching. Um, I mean, it can be, but that there can be so much more, like these shows that we're doing, or through writing and stuff like that. But what that is, I'm not sure, and that's where I feel like I need to start kind of, like, I don't want to get on my case and start shooting myself, as they
Right.
say, shooting all over myself. But I also don't want to lose it by not writing it down, or maybe putting a little bit of work into it. And so I was thinking I can maybe incorporate something like, there was one exercise I really liked where it was in the classes that we took, where we wrote, um so I did it for like 3 days in a row, and it was just free flow writing. And it was kind of like this, I think the concept behind it is you're imagining yourself in the future, and you're writing about where you're at. But I kind of turned it into my own thing, and it was really powerful. And I realized, like, wow, like, just letting your mind, like, I'm not a journaler. I've never done that. But I realized, like, letting your mind just kind of dump. It's like, it was amazing, like the stuff that came out. So I'm just thinking, I guess my point in saying all of that is, I'm seeing things a little differently, from a different perspective. And I also have this feeling that there's something that's just about to reveal itself. And I mean, I've started putting that together, kind of like that pyramid thing I showed you. But I think what I would like to do is kind of, without doing it in a pushy sort of way, start incorporating something that could help that revealing happen.
Well, the good news is you're thinking about it, and it's, you know, the thing is that there's more than one. Almost all of us have more than one great contributing energy in our journeys. It's so what ends up happening is that we challenge ourselves to find the one, the perfect thing, and I would say that's probably going to cause you a lot of agita and not get you where you want to be, because it's kind of going back to the, now instead of a relationship with your money, it's a relationship with goals. Well,
Right. And I want to avoid that. I don't, this whole, I, I want to remove the pressure that I'm feeling from this whole thing about becoming a life coach. And so, I mean, we just graduated our second class, and that's done. And the next thing is working up towards this accreditation through the ICF. And I figured might as well do it since
No, I think
that's
it'd
what we
be
already
good.
paid for.
Go ahead, you get the shingle,
Yeah.
because there will be some people who'll test you on your credibility on the shingle. Some people have
Well,
to have a shingle. I've noticed that over the years, in the beginning, I didn't really have questions about people with comes to hypnotherapy and things like that. I didn't have any questions about, ooh, how are you certified and all that. I did have questions about whether or not I was going to take over their mind. Like so many people have misunderstandings, but I've gotten away from telling people about the modalities and more, at least up front, and more like involved in helping people because there's more than one modality in my reach. And then the other thing is that it's the modality is another what I do thing. It's not what they get thing. And so it's more important for me to share with people, what their journey looks like, not mine. I mean, what I've done, great, but and since almost all my stuff comes to me by referral, um, it's it's no longer really an issue. But in the beginning, when I was first going out and doing this, is the shingle became a kind of way of just giving me a little credibility as I was getting started. But it
yeah.
was never a major thing. Like I never allowed it to be a major thing. So if you could get the ICF accreditation, go for it. Just do it. Then you can say, as I was certified. Because the other thing is that there are lots of people who've gone to life coaching school,
Yeah.
and there are literally thousands of them. And so there's the Brian Baird life coaching school, and it's better than the ICF. But in reality, it doesn't matter if it's better, because there are some things that are really nice about. There's a nice structure about ICF, and the reason why there's actually even an accreditation process is because there's a structure about ICF, which is what is it, International Coaching Federation or Foundation? Which is it? Federation, right? Is that the title? Is that the name of the group? I
Yeah.
can't remember. Okay. So,
International Coach. Yeah.
so they've gone to great lengths to make sure that they're providing people um, almost like an academically structured curricula, or very much an academically created curricula or structured curricula, so that there aren't any potholes in your training and knowledge along the way that might be found if you went to the Brian Baird School of Life Coaching. Because not that I can't teach people about life coaching, but inside of the process of what I do is very much more experiential and much less academic. And so, and there's value in that.
Yeah.
There's places where there's huge value in that model, but it's not like, okay, now you're certified in the Brian, But what's most important in the end doesn't matter whether you went to a structured academic style curricula or whether you
No.
did
Yeah.
experience style. In the end, what really matters is what is it you're doing to serve people, and what are they getting for that experience? And so we're really focusing on is how we're shape shifting the world by virtue of the work that we bring to the table, right?
Yeah. Totally. And I mean, the only thing that I can see with the ICF is that there are like organizations that are looking at whether you have credentialing. But I don't think that there is necessarily um it's still the wild wild west. It's not like, and like you were saying, like anybody could really go to coaching school and say that they're a certified coach. So this is just maybe one step above somebody who's gone to a coaching school. And I mean, I think my reason for doing it is just because I've already started down that path and I want to get it done. Um, but that being said, I mean, whatever my message is, and I'm sure like there's different messages because our life changes and things happen. Whatever that is, I I want that to come out naturally versus this thing where it's like this where I'm having to do it to survive. And that's yeah. So I think if going back to what we were originally talking about, like, well, yeah, just going back to what we were originally talking about, I don't want this to be a thing that has turned into like I need to do this to make a living.
Well, and the odds are, if you need to do this to make a living, you won't be making a living. There are literally hundreds of thousands of broke coaches.
Yeah.
Um, and so how do you get through that process where somebody's not in that broke state is to make sure that you're walking the walk and not just talking it. I'll put the New York accent back on there. You're walking the talk and not just talking the talk. You're walking the walk and not talking the talk. So anyway, I don't know what if I just said made any sense, but there's like the one of the things.
Nothing you've said has made sense.
Okay, almost every coach ends up in the beginning of their journey thinking they can fix the world by virtue of just showing up and taking care of everybody's needs. And it gets even uglier because there's the old adage is that to a person, and I'll take the sexism out of it, to a person with a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. So if all you have under your belt is hypnotherapy or life coaching or EFT or whatever it is that you do, you run around thinking that, or you have essential oils or whatever it is, you think there's an EFT for that, there's an oil for that, there's a whatever, no matter what it is. Oh, you get cancer? I'll just do some oils with you. Like, and I'm not saying oils can't be a contributing factor in somebody's healing or coping or going from survival to thrival and whatever thing that there was going on in their journey. It doesn't have to be cancer. That just happens to be a commonly fear-based word. But what you're telling me is you want to be able to walk the walk.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Just being aware that that's something you want, because I'm saying there's so many people out there who just have made the decision that they're going to be a nail driver in whatever they do, that they have not really thought they've really not thought it through about what they're going to do to take care of themselves. Then the other aspect about coaching, and this is, so, I've been talking to you for a few years now, since 2018. So and not to let everybody know, I'm not coaching for 4 years. Just I've known you since July of 2018, and in the process of the things that make a lot of sense in your journey is you are empathetic enough in what's going on, and you've been turning that empathy inward.
It's that empathetic. I didn't hear the M part. You are
Oh,
pathetic
you are
enough.
pathetic. Yeah, you're totally
Yeah.
pathetic. No, you're
Thanks,
empathetic
buddy.
enough that you were able to it was easier for you to show up for strangers though with that empathy. If you think about it, or people you just met, or you weren't, like because in marriage, empathy wasn't
Y-
always that easy
Do
to
your
come
camera
by.
thing.
Yes, get the camera, come back. So the empathy isn't always, when we in our closer relationships, we sometimes can lose sight of empathy because all the fear and all that stuff can show up as well. But as you've turned that empathy inward, and that's some of the stuff that we talk about along the way,
Yeah.
you end up getting much more clear on what you don't want, which is a great start. And later on, you can get the clarity on what you really want. But right now, I think it's great. And I'll say this again, what you don't want, and having clarity on that as important as figuring out what you really want or how you really want to serve or what your message is really going to be. So so what I'm hearing is also you don't want to be one of those, let's make you a six-figure income earner, you want to avoid the
Well,
snake oil aspect to this.
yeah. Um, I definitely want to, like, I'm not saying that there aren't incredible things that some of these people are teaching. It's just,
Look, I'm also not going to say
yeah, I don't know.
that a coach can't be making six figures or much more. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying money first thinking is inappropriate.
Yeah, I think that that's the thing that kind of rubs me wrong, because I get that, here's how, if we're going to look at this from a few different angles, saying that you can turn somebody into a six-figure income coach is definitely going to appeal to a lot of people, because those people that's their number one worry. And it's that they don't make enough money. I've got a coaching certificate and I'm not making enough money. To me, it's like, I get that that's marketing, a part of that, but it's also, um it's solidifying that fear-based thinking even deeper in people's people's minds, because now you've got to act now,
Right.
because you're
And
wasting time.
even more disgusting though is how many of those people will go through those programs and now just be more challenged because their confidence will be shaken because they think they're not doing that right when they
Right.
haven't been taught what will make that right. Knowing that may be helpful in the long term, but what will make that right is getting what's right going on now as you're contemplating. And I'm very
And that's it.
certain of this discussion, as helpful for you and anybody else who's listening, is that the look, I know it doesn't, and we know there are people out there who make money the center of everything, and they can make a lot of money, and they can make a lot of money. Well, wait a second here. Is money the only arbiter of success, or is it the even best arbiter of what success is? Because if you have a lot of money in the bank and you're pretend happy instead of really happy, then I think that's a misfire. And I'm not trying to judge anybody,
Absolutely.
but I've met so many people who are bank rich and happy poor. And they have all the trappings that make them feel like they're happy. Oh, I got a new toy, and the toy gives them some interim pleasure or whatever else is going on in that kind of thing that money can acquire so readily. However, there needs the money is included in the discussion. It can't be the only thing in the discussion, whether it's business or anything else. I would if somebody if somebody was going to let's say I'm having a relationship evaluation by going to dinner with somebody. I'm dating, whatever other word you want to put on that. And then they start getting preoccupied with money. I'm going, this is not in alignment with who I am. It doesn't matter whether I'm making enough money to meet their needs, and I could very well be. It's that that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for somebody who's focused on money to bring them happiness. I'm looking for somebody who's looking on happiness to bring them money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea of, like, you want a person, you want a relationship to be two happy people versus I need to be with you because you make me happy.
Right.
It's
But
kind of,
it's kind of the name, but what I just said is kind of the name of the game. Is like, if you want to call it a
right.
game, is that money doesn't get you happy. It can give you flirtatious conversation, energy with it, but it's not ultimately going to be buying you happiness. Um, and but happiness can bring you the money you need because you are now in integrity. I'm looking at the kind of happiness that comes from inside, not the happiness that you can stroke from external behavior or external causes. And
Right.
in many ways, that's my distinction between joy and happiness. Is joy is something that you are cultivating inside of you, and you can carry that energy even during what may be even unhappy times, and versus those things that are externally produced stimulants that may give us a sense of happiness at the time that it happens. So, you know, getting a finding $100 could make you happy for a day or a half an hour or whatever the case may be, but it's not a long-term survival thrival discussion item. So
No, and I think like sure, can it's easy for people to imagine like, oh, how my life would change if I had money. However, I'm more and more I'm seeing the value of how your life needs to change without money because it everything is like I always like refer to the idea of like what I call the universal truths or like those things that are counterintuitive to what we think and kind of that concept of the harder you squeeze the more it slips through your fingers type thing. But I'm seeing so many other examples or so much other evidence that of where that is true, how things are where the harder we push, how the further behind we get. And there's nothing wrong with hard work, but I think it needs to be also smart work. And and I think there's a way that there's a perspective that you can come from where it doesn't even feel like necessarily work anymore. And so I'm more and more I'm trying to see like how these experiences in my life that can be given the label of like negative or setback or something that's not good are actually really those moments where most the growth and insight is coming from. It's like I am grateful for the fact that I burnt out and that I felt, I felt like what I was doing wasn't working because through that is where the insight came from. And I started seeing things a little bit clearer. Um, and now it's just, I would say I'm not looking for evidence of those situations, but I'm open to experiencing situations in a different light, like in a different way of where I may have normally looked at something in a way that was like, oh God, this horrible thing that's happening to me in my life, and not actually seeing that, oh, this is actually a really wonderful thing that's happened to me because it's saved me from something so much worse. So what you doing?
I am taking something I wrote said to you, and I'm just writing it out so I can see if I can say it in so much more clarity here. This is money does not assure connection with the right kind of happiness, yet true happiness can connect you with the right kind of money. So what I, underneath the hood of that statement is that work on your happiness, work on what makes you aligned or high integrity or truly living who you really are, as opposed to living under other sponsorships for your journey. Like, um, too many people live under the voices of their parents or their maybe even significant others or maybe somebody they work for, telling them how they're supposed to show up in their lives, and so they don't get a chance to be themselves, and they may end up with a paycheck, or they may end up with certain kinds of security, but they're not happy, or their happiness is very elusive. And yet, if we learn how to find happiness no matter what's going on, money, and certainly in my experience with people I'm working with and myself, money resolves itself.
Okay.
So anyway, I apologize.
You're deep in thought.
Well, I was just, but I wanted to write that out the way I just said it, because I felt like that's kind of the summation of some of, not everything we're talking about, but some of the conversation we're having here is is not letting what we think money can do, which is, as when we think money is a pain retardant or a pain eliminator or a pain reducer, it's kind of like taking an aspirin.
Right.
You get the headache goes away for now, but it's you're starting with another headache soon enough. Whereas if I can figure out what stops the headaches, not just what erases them for the moment, but stops them from even happening, then I'm in a much better place. So if you want to look at, this discussion, I mean, almost like what you were telling me is you were starting to get the headaches and recognize them for what they were. And now you're looking to live a life where the headaches just don't happen.
Yeah, I don't want to, yeah, I'm not looking for an answer. I don't want to, I really want to trust in this process of letting things happen naturally, not being like just standing idle and waiting for something to happen. I know that it comes from me. I know that I have to make it happen. However, that thing that I have to make happen.
Well, what I'm hearing you said here, you said something I wanted to
Yeah.
sort of maybe just backtrack for a second here. You said, I don't want to look for it, but I'm saying, I don't think that's what you meant to say. And I'll see if this rings as more true. You don't want to create it or work for it. You want it to reveal it. You want it to be discovered. You want it to be a natural development in your journey, as opposed to something that you have
Yeah.
to go off course.
I guess what I'm trying to embrace here is this new idea of like allowing whatever is inside of me to come out without that sort of pressure that can be put on making something happen. And I know that whatever it is, it comes from me, and that I will eventually be, whatever it is for me and for my life and that I'm going to do will obviously eventually come from me, but I don't want to put that pressure on it that I have been putting on myself all my life. And it's like that whole the harder you push thing, as I was saying earlier. I just and so I'm having to embrace something that is totally counterintuitive to who I've been. And and the only way I know how to go about it at this point is by just letting it be. And that's what I was saying. Maybe I want to start writing or journaling, whatever it is, to kind of help these thoughts and these feelings come out. But I just don't, I know that the way I've been going about things has not worked out in my favor. And there is a different way to go about doing it. I just don't quite know what that is yet.
So it didn't work
don't
out
want
to your favor based on the expectations of the time. Because
say
it
that
may have
again.
very well, didn't work out to your favor based on the expectations of the time.
Yeah,
But
no,
it may
I'm not
very
saying
well
like
have worked out favorably for you in the
right.
long run, right? So
Well, right, because there's a
and
lesson there.
there's a word you shared with me a while back, and I don't think we were recording at the time, but it's sort of like when you said "let it go." There's a word you shared with me, which I think is an extremely powerful word. You had mentioned vulnerability before, and so and the beautiful thing about vulnerability is the connection that has with faith,
Mm.
the trust. Because you have to trust to be able to stand vulnerably. But one of the other words you've shared with me along the way is um, surrender, and
Mm.
that connects to your power. So if you have the power to surrender, it's sometimes you need power to be vulnerable too, but it's like they're all intricately linked. But surrender is freeing, and once you're free, then you get the experience of revealing things to yourself that you might have been blocking when you were trying to make things happen.
Well,
Um,
I don't.
mm.
Yeah, I don't
so
remember saying that, but it's. I'm sure I did, and I think
yeah,
that's what
absolutely, you
I
did.
think that's where I'm at. Is that I'm in a state of. I mean, I guess I'm just learning how to surrender a little bit to everything that's happening. I mean, yeah. What were you saying? I cut you off.
Oh, but that's where we are. I mean, is you've latched onto the word being finding a way to be vulnerable, and now finding a way to surrender, and both trust and power and truth and even a sense of self-care are attached to these two words. Um, so um, so it's not like we can just extricate one little core value like trust and throw it at the word surrender. They all work together to support your surrender, but it's just that in your journey to figuring out what it takes to surrender, you're going to reveal those core values in even heightened levels. And inside of that will become many aspects of clarity that you're still looking for. And it's okay to look for clarity. I'm uncomfortable with people trying to make clarity, create clarity, because
Right.
that makes it sound very forced. I think clarity is a revelation of who we really are, what we're really supposed to do. And inside of that, as I said before, there are multiple service elements in our journey. So it's not going to be just one thing. It's maybe the first thing that gives you a sense of clarity, but you'll get new clarities. My work has continued to evolve to the point where I'm now framing out completely unexpectedly based on something that just happened in the last 3 weeks. I'm framing out something completely, well, actually maybe the last, maybe say 4 weeks, but something completely new has evolved out of all of the body of my work and service into a brand new structure that I did not anticipate. I'm actually rewriting book one in my trilogy to a degree, not completely rewriting, but I'm inserting this entire new property in that book because it suddenly made the book even more clear. The value
Right.
proposition to the reader is that much more evident now.
Well,
So,
that's why people often add to their they have like a 10-year anniversary of their book and they've added a bunch of stuff to it or
right.
whatever,
Or they
or
write books
make it
2, 3,
modern.
4, 5, 6, 7, or whatever they got to do. So, I
Right.
mean, when Bob Proctor wrote his first few books, and actually I just saw this with Brene Brown. One of her original themes in her early work was talking about how you have to cope or deal with shame in order for you to climb out of shame, in order for you to be able to move forward. And she's been so completely different. And her latest book actually talks about the progress from those days.
Right.
so, anyway, it's really very remarkable how when we are able to just breathe and count the moments and not stress over what we are supposed to be doing, because it'll come. If it's not clear now, it'll come. We know you're going to be a coach. We know that life coaching will be an element of that coaching, but you have so much more in who you are. This is what's true for everybody that I work with. And this is certainly true, as you know, in your own journey when you look at all the things we've talked about, even offline, is that there is much more to you than just the shingle that you're currently pursuing. That is just an element along the way to reinforce the body of work that's going to come out of you. And the body of work, I'll even say the body of play, actually, because work makes it always sound like it's intense. And so, but, you know,
Right.
you think about what you were just saying it earlier, when you wrote, if you thought you were writing to make, it was going to be about the money, it made all the writing seem much more artificial
Yeah.
and more forced
Well,
and more produced.
I think, and this just occurred to me. There's what I'm really focused there's a massive element about this whole stage that I'm in that feels very uncomfortable. And this whole concept of seeing, reframing these quote unquote negative experiences as really actually growth periods, or they're actually good things, like I had said once a couple sessions ago about our childhood trauma is actually a blessing in disguise, because it really kind of helps us it shapes who we are, but also helps us reinvent who we are, if we are can see past it. But what basically, like, I think the stage I'm in right now is, it for somebody who is experiencing what I'm experiencing, it's very easy to fall into the trap of become become a six-figure coach, become, that whole, like, thing, because I would call this stage in another way. I would call this stage is, I just wish somebody would tell me what to do stage. Like, I don't know what to do. I just wish somebody would tell me what to do.
Hmm.
And that is and what I just kind of came to realization about is that, what a that's an incredible place to be, because that's a that is a very uncomfortable feeling, not knowing what one should do, not knowing what's the next step, how to proceed, all of that. Because, at that stage, anything is possible, but it's often, I think, can be perceived as being very scary, because people just don't people want an answer. They need, like, to be doing something. And I think the reality is that it's becoming comfortable in that not knowing, and that place of kind of, like, what would you call it? Like, kind of a limbo. I think that it's actually if we can, like, if since that is what I'm experiencing right now, if I can embrace that, this is, I think, a wonderful breeding ground for any possibility to take place or to happen. So it's just becoming comfortable in that not knowing, instead of looking for somebody like, Brian, tell me what I should be doing. What should I do? Tell me what to do. Like, I want to make this happen. Like,
Okay.
that's
Well,
a completely
but you're already
it,
doing what I would suggest anyway, right? Surrendering,
right,
relaxing, breathing, because it's the process I would be guiding you on, not the answer.
right. So that's why I'm realizing, like, in talking about this, that the universal move here would be to just be like, hey, this is it's like allowing a feeling to have its space to exist. This is allowing whatever this process is to exist. And I'm learning to not get on my own back about it. I'm learning to not beat myself up about it, and to also not feel the pressure of what other people say I should be doing.
So, how would you like to wrap up today? What would that be for you? I would say I'd keep on going, but I have
I don't know. What time is it? It's
almost
1 o'clock.
almost 1 year time.
I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't have anything really. I just, it's just a very, it's a very weird place to be, not really doing anything and being okay with that.
Hmm. Last night I had a guest on my show, um, and she's working on a book. If I recall the title, I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but if I recall the title of the book was um, "Becoming Okay with Uncertainty" or "Finding the Courage to Live with Uncertainty." Um, I'm sure the title's longer than that, but it just the gist of it was is finding the courage to live with uncertainty because frankly nothing is ever certain. It's just that so many of us need certainty. We find safety in having certainty, and sometimes the certainty is artificial. So you've probably met people who will argue you to the death over a fact because if it's wrong, they can't take it. Like so because that's their form of certainty. That's how they get safety, as being certain, even if they're completely wrong, they'll stick to their guns because that's what makes them feel safe. And so she starts out with these authors working on this concept of developing the courage to feel uncertain. um, I would like to see everybody eventually throw the word courage away, that they have adjusted their life to the idea of being in the flow and allowing uncertainty to be a steady state process. And that's where that word surrender can be so powerful, is that you get a chance um, to lean in on a form of relaxation and just kind of riding along, bobbing on the ocean, so to speak. That's not that you can't always put your sails up and go someplace,
Mhm.
but just right now, let let the wind take you where you want to go, or let the waves nurture your boat along the for the ride, and see what destinations are now available to you, what shorelines you pass that you want to stop and visit. And those will be the conversations that you're going to have, um, that will bring you more clarity, about what your message is going to be and how you're going to serve and all those other things that are going with it. Underneath the hood,
It's
it's
but
already there. Underneath the hood, it's already there.
it's I understand it's already there, but it's such an extremely uncomfortable place to be in. In fact, even in our conversation today, I feel like I don't really know what I'm saying. I don't have any clear thoughts, and it's just it just even today's conversation, I feel like was a prime example of where I feel like I'm at in my life. Just kind of a tumbleweed blowing back and forth in the wind.
You
And
know how many people would like to be
but I
that
want
way?
to accept that. Yeah, I know that.
So
That's
many
great
people
when you're
feel bound
in your
and
20s.
prison like, so I mean, the ability to to open the cell door and walk through it, because right now it's unlocked. That cell door is unlocked. You just kind of open it and go. That's where you are. And that's where your coaching is going to be for people too. You're going to end up with a bunch of clients with unlocked cell doors, yet they're still prisoners.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to free myself from my prison, and I think it's a prison of the way I think.
It always
I
is.
mean,
That's what I'm saying is that we get into the habit of being in the cell.
yeah. Well, you had some revelations because you kept typing away and doing
Oh, it's
something.
just that one thing. I just wanted to, I think I'm going to put that out. as I like to put little statements out on Facebook once in a while. I put a placard up. You've probably seen them.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
my thought of the day, and it just the way that it's not like I hadn't thought about that narrative before, but I just never took the time to say it with that much clarity. So we can sign off with this: is that money does not assure connection with the right kind of happiness. Yet true happiness can connect us with the right kind of money.
yeah, yeah,
And I totally believe from data, not just because that's what I want to believe, based on how many people is in my journey where that's been a successful framework in supporting them getting where they needed to be. So
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah. It's. I'm seeing it. I'm understanding it. I'm believing it. I'm just. I keep looking for what do I do with it, and I keep going back to I don't do anything right now.
okay, well, I wouldn't sweat it. I wouldn't sweat it. One time, we'll shut down the conversation after I say this though. But many years ago, when I worked on Wall Street, I made good money. I wasn't a trader, but I supported the environment. Did some what they call econometric analysis and things like that for people who are working in regional and money-centered banks, to understand how market trends might be and do some forecasting and other things that were going on. It was pretty interesting work.
Right.
Wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I enjoyed it while I was doing it, and I made a lot of good friends at the time and so on. And then I suddenly just said, you know what? I'm going to go back to something that was kind of my roots, and I opened up my long overdue computer consulting company. So, and I had some clients lined up and things like that. So it wasn't like that was a big deal. But for the first month after I quit my job on Wall Street, I watched TV all day. First month. It was almost shock that I had done this. Like, what am I going to do? I'm responsible for myself. It's not, it's, it's not the same thing as a paycheck happening every 2 weeks. And,
Yeah.
and I remember that at the end of the month, there was kind of this revelation that I had taken enough time. I had figured out, I just called it a 1 month mental health break. And in many ways, that was all I needed to do. And after that, I made hay with my computer consulting company. I was the single rainmaker for the company. And all my staff always was getting paid. I didn't have staff from the very, very beginning, but at the end, I ended up with 9 employees. Everybody was getting paid. Everything was going great. All those kinds of things. There were times when things got a little lean, but nobody ever missed a paycheck, and all kinds of things like that. But there was that 30 days in there where I was just like, oh my gosh,
I feel
this,
like I'm kind of doing that a little bit
yeah, there's
right
no
now.
one. It was about certainty. When I look back on it, it was about, what have I done? I've taken something that felt very certain, very controllable, and I stepped into something where it's now all about how I show up in the journey, and it was a very uncomfortable place to be. So I get that discomfort, but so that 30 days was my breathing period.
Right.
It doesn't have to be only
Hmm.
30 days, but but for me, it was 1 month of Gilligan's Island and Oprah Winfrey and whatever else was on at the time. So
Right, right. Okay. Well, I don't know what we accomplished, but
oh, well, you're going to go back and
I
listen to it.
forgot it.
You're going to realize much
We
more
got
than you.
Yeah, we got a late start. I forgot that you had to probably do something at 1, right?
Yeah.
Your
So
time.
I'm
Or,
good.
or
But I do need to get going. So, and normally I would stay on, as long as I
No,
didn't have
it's
to come
okay. I need to get prepared for the child.
the child, the child.
The child.
So, okay. I am going to be joining some people in a little while for a Super Bowl dinner, Super Bowl
Oh,
Sunday.
nice.
So,
Is that what today is?
yep,
I have
today it
no
is.
idea.
I'm not exactly, this is like the one game a year I really, really watch. I really don't even know, I do know who's in it, but there are times when I've gone into watch a Super Bowl game and only just learned who the teams were.
I have no idea. I have
Well,
no idea. I
this
didn't
year
even know it was.
it's Chiefs and Eagles. That much I know. But these,
Okay.
and the reason why I know all that is because I've got a bunch of football heads in my journey who are like, oh, the Bengals lost to the Chiefs, and so I knew who who was going in there. And so anyway, um, you're gonna look back on this conversation. When you go back to listen to it, you realize there was more to it than you thought.
I keep thinking that. Yeah. I feel like I was struggling for things to say, and I think maybe
Well, you set it
yeah.
up for me to open my big mouth.
Well, you always open your big mouth.
Okay. Okay,
All right.
everybody. Have a great whatever day it is for you by the time you're listening to this, and we'll be doing this again. Trust me.
Oh yeah. All right. Thanks everyone.
Have a
All
good
right.
day.